Hey, it's your friend Lindsay. Welcome to Small Business Growth Tools, where we grow our businesses and our faith. Stick around and I'll teach you how to take intentional action to grow your small business. Over-explaining is killing your sales. If you've ever walked away from a sales conversation thinking that went really well and I gave them everything they needed, and then they didn't buy, this episode is for you. Because what if the problem isn't that you didn't explain enough? What if the problem is that you explained too much? Today, we're talking about how over-explaining is killing your sales and why the more information you give, the harder it actually becomes for someone to say yes. Stay with me because I'm going to walk you through a real client transformation that will completely change how you show up in sales conversations. Welcome back to Small Business Growth Tools. I'm Lindsay Fletcher, and today we're talking about over-explaining in sales conversations. I know that sharing everything that you know probably feels helpful, but it's actually hurting your sales. I'm going to share a real life example in just a minute, but first I want to give you a really quick example so you can see or hear really quickly and really clearly what I mean by over-explaining. Okay, so let me walk you through this really quick example. You go to get your hair done. Okay, you sit down in the chair, you've saved a couple of pictures on your phone, and your stylist walks up and says, "All right, what are we doing today?" Now, imagine that you're wanting to be blonde with some dimension and depth, and you want to add some length to your hair. Okay. Does your stylist say things to you like, to create depth and richness between your light pieces, I'm going to use 7N plus 6GI. And for the blonding, I'm going to use 5 ounces of bleach and 5 ounces of the developer. And for the root, I'm going to shadow with a gloss in 7N. And then I'm going to tone it with another gloss in 10N and plus a 9GI. And then I'm going to use a touch of 10 volume for that perfectly balanced blonde. And then to add length, I'm going to use warm honey wefts in 18 inches for fullness. And I'm going to use a customized micro mini extensions in warm honey for detail and dimension. No, ma'am, she does not say that. She may ask you some questions about what you love about the pictures, and she may clarify how your hair is different than the hair in the picture. Or she may say, "Hey, I think this isn't attainable for you in this one session," right? She may ask you some questions about what you love about it, and then she's going to use her years of experience and training to make your hair look as close as possible to the pictures that you showed her, right? So when I say over-explaining, this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. Your stylist isn't going into every detail and every training she's ever been into, and she's not going into the nitty-gritty of what she's going to do to your hair. No, she asks you some questions. She clarifies what it is that you want. If she thinks she can get those results, then she's going to then get to work. So we need to start being more like our hairstylist. We need to ask some questions. We need to listen, and then we need to do the dang thing. Okay. Now, by the way, I want you to know that I know nothing about the hair things I just said. I went to a hairstylist's page and I pulled some of this info and changed around some information in this example. So if you're a hairstylist listening and none of that made sense, there's a reason. I'm not a hairstylist and I don't know anything about what I just said. So I want to give you a real life example. Let me tell you about one of my clients. She runs a service-based business and she is incredibly good at what she does, like extremely good, like the kind of business owner that once you've worked with her or once you've heard her talk about what she does, people stay, people refer her, they love her. But in her sales conversations, she was over explaining everything. And it made complete sense to her. All the years of research she's done, all of the years of training, and all the years of experience and history and learning she had under her belt. And her thinking in over explaining was that if she could just get ahead of every question, if she could just explain all of the details, and if she could just give them everything up front, then the potential client would feel certain enough to say yes. And what I want you to hear is this. She was trying to serve her customers well. She was trying to help make the decision easier. And so many of you are doing the exact same thing. But here's what was actually happening in those conversations. The exact opposite of what she was trying to do was happening. The more information she would give, the harder it became to make a decision, because instead of guiding the client forward, she overwhelmed them with information and brochures and handouts that she had created because she thought that everyone needed all of this information. And you may be wondering, what did most of those people say, right? Most of those people were telling her, I need to think about it. Not because they weren't interested. They were interested. They came to her, right? But it was because they had too much to process, too much information to sort through. They maybe had one question and she was giving them the answers to 25 or 100 questions, right? So this is the part that most people don't realize. Over-explaining doesn't actually make you more helpful. It makes the decision harder for your potential customers. So if you've ever thought that someone was going to buy, they seem interested, and then all of a sudden they said, I need to think about it, this next shift is going to be really helpful for you. So here's what we worked on. And this is important. Hear me here. Don't just say less to say less words, okay? Here's the real shift. She stopped trying to carry the entire decision for her clients. Before, she was doing all of the thinking for them. She was trying to anticipate everything. She was trying to answer everything before it actually even came up. Has that ever happened to you? I would almost bet the farm that it has. It's happened to all of us, right? But now she knows what questions to ask. She knows what information she needs to qualify them. She knows to ask more questions when certain things are said in her sales conversations. She lets the clients respond before she adds more information. She may actually ask another question to clarify again, right? She stays in the conversation instead of jumping ahead and piling on too much too soon. So this is what this does, okay? It keeps the focus on moving forward together, not providing more and more information. And this was the biggest mindset shift for her. Before, she believed certainty came from knowing all the details, having more explanations, giving more information. Now she understands how buyer motivation plays into her conversations. Now she understands how to lead them in a clear direction. Now, instead of data dumping and information spewing and word vomiting all over her potential clients, she's guiding them. She's going from being an information giver to a leader in her sales conversations. She now knows here's what happens next. She's not overthinking it. And when that shifted, everything changed for her. Her conversations actually became shorter. She wasn't doing these long, drawn out conversations over time. Her conversations actually became shorter. They became clearer. She became more confident. She wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. She wasn't changing who she was. She's still the amazing business owner and service provider in her local market. She's just now leading sales conversations, and her clients could feel that. The results are that her sales cycles became shorter. Her conversations were more condensed. She knew how to ask questions in a way that gave her the information she needed to qualify them. She answered questions in a way that the clients felt good about. She knew their buyer motivation, and she was able to tailor her conversations towards those motivations. She also got more yeses, and she had more confidence in her sales conversations. And that's what learning how to sell will do for you and your business. That's what having sales skills will do. It's not something you're born with. It's something you learn how to do. And ultimately, her business has grown so much that she's actually hired another salesperson because she changed how she showed up in the conversation she was having. She learned the different types of motivations that humans have and how to spot them in real time in her conversations so that she knows how to deliver information and how to lead her sales conversations so that people say yes. Not everyone wants all the data and all the information and all the handouts. She stopped trying to control the outcome and started trusting herself to lead these potential clients through the sales process. Now, what does that mean? It means that she didn't rush to fill in pauses or silences in conversation. She let them process, she let them think, and she let them have space. She didn't jump in with more information. She met them where they were and learned about them and learned how to give the information in a way that made sense for them. And so instead of losing control, she was actually gaining control of her sales because she was guiding people to a decision to work with her. So let's talk about over explaining and what is actually happening here. Okay. Over explaining usually comes from wanting to be helpful, not wanting to feel salesy or pushy. It might also come from the fear of being misunderstood or the fear that they won't choose you. It can also be that you don't have the confidence when it comes to talk about pricing, right? So you try to remove every possible objection, every possible problem. You try to fill in any possible gap that might be there before we even know that it exists, right? But what you're actually doing is removing space for the client to engage with you. And when they don't engage, they don't decide. They don't move forward with you. So here's what I want you to do in your next sales conversation. I want you to say what's needed for that moment, for that question, and then pause. I want you to let them respond and then ask a question to clarify instead of adding more information. I want you to be so curious, okay? Say things like, tell me more about that, or I'm curious why you asked that question. We as humans often say one thing is the problem, but when we start to peel the layers of the onion back, we actually realize that the problem is something else, but we don't know to say that because we don't know that that's the actual problem, right? So guide the conversation forward one step at a time. Don't jump ahead. Don't data dump. Don't over explain what you do or what the process is or hand out too many pieces of reading material. You are not there to download everything that you know. Just like the hairstylist, you are not there to give every piece of information that you have stored in your brain about your business into this conversation. It's way too much information. We're going to be more like the hairstylist that we actually go to, who listens, who asks questions, who clarifies what it is that you want, sets you up for realistic expectations. They lead you to a decision of, yes, this is what I want to do. That's what should be happening in sales conversations. You are there to lead them to a decision. You don't need to say more to make more sales. You need to be a better leader. And when you do that, your clients don't feel overwhelmed. They feel confident, they feel guided, and they feel ready to move forward. If this episode hit home for you, I want to invite you to take this to the next level. I'm hosting a live in-person training called the Buyer Breakthrough on April 20th. And inside this training, I'm going to teach you how to understand buyer motivation, what questions your buyers need answers to say yes, and how to tailor your messaging so that it actually connects and turns conversations into clients. Now, this is just a part of the sales process, but this is a really important part for you to understand, because when you understand how your buyer thinks, you don't have to over explain anymore. You can lead the conversation with clarity and with confidence. There's only 15 spots available. You can grab your spot at lindsayfletcher.co/breakthrough. I'm cheering you on, friends. And as always, I'm praying for you and I'm praying for your business. And I'll talk to you next week.